For most of the zombies' history, completing the main Easter egg didn't actually change how the game was played. You solved the quest, watched the cutscene, and that was it. But one zombie game completely broke that formula. Infinite Warfare introduced a reward so massive, it added a new gameplay mode, a secret final boss fight, even the villain as an unlockable character, and many other bonus features we are going to talk about in this video. All of that tied to one single system, Director's Cut. To understand why Infinite Warfare's reward system was so special, we first need to look at how zombie rewards traditionally worked. For many years in Treyarch Zombies, completing the main Easter egg usually rewarded players with something fairly small. Most of the time it was simply an achievement or trophy depending on the platform. Things started to evolve slightly with Black Ops 2, particularly with the map Origins, which was one of the first to include a full ending cutscene tied to completing the Easter egg. That helped the quest feel like a real story conclusion rather than just another hidden objective. Black Ops 2 also introduced an early version of what the community now calls a super Easter egg, connecting multiple maps in a weekly storyline. But even then the rewards were still fairly limited, mostly offering additional lore and some in-game bonuses rather than something permanent. Then came Black Ops 3 Zombies, where Treyarch introduced what many players considers as the first real incentive for completing every single Easter egg in the game. Finishing them all granted players 1 million XP, a unique Dark Ops scoring card, and the ability to start games with the RK5 pistol. While that was definitely something, let's be real, the RK5 is a weapon you can buy off the wall for 500 points. It was a nice achievement to have and to start with something better than the starting pistol, but it wasn't exactly a game-changing reward. From that point forward, many developers slowly began experimenting with slightly larger incentives. Later zombie games introduced things like different starting weapons, starting weapon rarity upgrades, unique operators, weapon blueprints, and many small cosmetic rewards tied to completing the quests. But the core philosophy stayed mostly the same. In fact, Treyarch later revealed that before Cold War Zombies, less than 2% of players were actually completing the Easter eggs themselves, with most players only experiencing them through YouTube videos. Because of that, Easter eggs started becoming much easier, but still were mainly treated as story events and not as a full progression system. Even in modern zombie modes, most rewards remain cosmetics or symbolic rather than something that fundamentally changes how the game is played. And that's exactly where Infinite Warfare Zombies did something completely different. Because during its life cycle, nobody, and I mean nobody, could have imagined that the final reward would be so massive, it would completely change how players approach the entire mode and set exceptions so high for upcoming Easter egg rewards. So after all this talk, I think it's time to take a closer look at Infinite Warfare Zombies and understand what made it stand out with and even without Director's Cut. One of the most unique aspects of the mode was the entire presentation. Every single map in the game was designed as if the players had been pulled inside one of the horror director Willard Wyler's movies. Each map took place on a fictional film set inspired by a different decade and horror genre. That meant every environment, enemy type, soundtrack and visual style felt drastically different from the previous one. Because of this, Infinite Warfare Zombies developed a very distinct identity. And another fun feature tied into this film concept was the inclusion of celebrity cameos. Every map starred a different celebrity who fit the theme of the movie. And the best part was that after completing the Easter egg on the map for the first time, players could unlock the celebrity as a playable character by entering a special secret code in the menu. For example, David Hasselhoff appeared in Zombies in Spaceland, perfectly fitting the 80s setting. Kevin Smith featured in Rewind Redwoods, leaning into the 90s slasher atmosphere. Pam Grier starred in Shaolin Shuffle, matching the 70s martial arts aesthetic, and Cassandra Peterson, better known as Elvira, appeared in Attack of the Radioactive Thing, fitting perfectly into the 50s monster movie theme. The final map, The Beast from Beyond, unfortunately did not feature any celebrity character like the others. The map itself is somewhat controversial because it feels more focused on the Easter egg rather than the map itself. And I mean the map itself feels very lackluster with many reused enemies from the previous maps. Yet it still delivered one of the most memorable moments in the entire mode, including a boss fight that many players still rank among the most iconic fights ever created in Zombies history. It also served as a tribute to Extinction from Call of Duty Ghosts, something longtime fans maybe hated or appreciated. And I can't talk about Beast without giving credits where credits due, and a huge props to Lee Ross, who was the associate project director for this mode, and he finished and wrote this final map when he was hospitalized, and I think that just shows such serious dedication that he's rightfully being called a legend. Okay, and before we move to the next section, I want to quickly mention Raving the Redwoods and Shaolin Shuffle again. Both of these maps featured one additional secret weapon that becomes available every match after completing the Easter egg for the first time. The Smiley on Rave and the Katana on Shaolin Shuffle. But now we finally reach the big payoff of this video. What exactly is a director's cut and why is it such a big deal? So after completing the Easter egg on each individual map, collecting all pieces of the soul key, the players could return to the projector room and place the pieces inside the soul jar. Doing so unlocks Director's Cut, a mode that could be activated in the menu before every single match, fundamentally changing how the entire zombie mode is being played. Once activated, players would spawn with 25,000 points, all candy perks automatically activated permanently even when you go down, with the exception of open items. Every weapon from the magic wheel would already appear pack-a-punched once, meaning powerful weapons could be obtained almost instantly, and the system even went further, as wonder weapons for each map could now appear in the magic wheel as well, and would also spawn already upgraded. The alien fuses required for double pack-a-punch were automatically installed into the machine on every map, and players could also refill their Fate and Fortune card deck unlimited amount of times per match instead of being limited to only 2 refills. The Lost and Found machine, which normally costs 2000 points to retrieve lost equipment, became completely free to use, and lastly, on every single map on round 1 you could find a mask in the Director's Cut which, when being shot, rewarded the player with additional lobby musics. All of this completely transformed the pacing of Zombies gameplay. Entire maps could now be approached in a completely different way because the traditional early game setup and the long quest to acquire wonder weapons could be essentially skipped. But Director's Cut did not exist simply to make the game easier. It was also the key to unlock the true final challenge and final ending hidden inside the game. Once Director's Cut was unlocked, players could replay each of the 5 Easter eggs again, this time completing them rewarded special items known as talismans, and collecting all 5 talismans unlocked access to the secret final encounter, and this was the fight against Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles is essentially the ultimate villain behind the events of Infinite Warfare Zombies, and the boss fight itself takes place in an intense arena that constantly floods the player with enemies while the boss cycles through several deadly attack phases. Players must deal with aggressive skeleton enemies while constantly moving around trying not to die from the boss cause it can one-hit the player. The fight demands constant awareness and precision, and even a small mistake can instantly end the run, especially once the fire tornado phase starts, like, let me not go into that. Because of its difficulty and chaotic design, many players still consider the Mephistopheles boss fight one of the hardest encounters ever created in the Zombies mode. Defeating him rewarded the players with several new items again. These included the Director's Cut camo for every single weapon in the game, the animated Demon Slayer calling card, and perhaps the most interesting reward of all, Willard Wyler as a playable character on Zombies in Spaceland. So unlocking him as a playable character after defeating the ultimate boss is such a brilliant payoff in my opinion. Instead of simply watching the story conclude in a cutscene, players were rewarded by stepping directly into the role of the villain they had spent the entire game fighting against. And of course then you can complete Spaceland one last time while playing as Willard and watch probably the biggest cliffhanger in Zombies history. I mean, right after Ancient Evil, of course. So the real question is, why did this reward system work so well? The biggest reason is that they flooded players with rewards, and they created a long-term progression loop that extended far beyond completing a single Easter egg. Instead of finishing one quest and moving to the next map, players suddenly had the reason to truly replay the game. Director's Cut acted as a powerful gameplay modifier that completely changed how matches played. Basically a new game plus system. The talismans encouraged players to revisit and complete the Easter eggs under new conditions, and the Mephistopheles boss fight served as the ultimate final challenge, a skill test that pushed even experienced players to their limits. Despite how ambitious the system was, Infinite Warfare Zombies did not receive the recognition it deserved when it first released. At the time, many players were skeptical about a non-Treyarch Zombies experience, and Infinite Warfare itself faced a heavy criticism for continuing the futuristic direction of Call of Duty during a period when many fans were already experiencing fatigue with sci-fi settings. Because of the initial backlash, a large portion of the community never gave Infinite Warfare Zombies a fair chance, even though over time the perception of the mode began to change. As more players revisited the game and experienced its mechanic firsthand, many started to realize just how creative and experimental the design really was. The unique map themes, the arcade-inspired aesthetics, the celebrity cameos, and the incredibly ambitious reward structure all helped Infinite Warfare Zombies slowly earn the recognition it had originally missed. So why didn't we see another reward system, a new game plus like Director's Cut ever since? Most likely it comes down to development complexity. Designing a system that fundamentally alters the progression of an entire mode requires a significant amount of balancing and testing. Modern zombies also tend to focus more heavily on seasonal content model, which prioritize frequent updates, limited time modes, and cosmetic rewards that can be shared across multiple modes. The only exception might be the cursed Pack-a-Punch camos currently in Black Ops 7 Zombies only being able to be used in zombies. But at the same time, the community has clearly not forgotten about such a huge reward system like Director's Cut. When Black Ops 6 concluded, many players were expecting some kind of major Super Easter egg reward from Treyarch. When that did not happen, it understandably left some fans disappointed. In a dev talk, Kevin Drew mentioned the possibility of a larger Easter egg reward returning in Black Ops 7 in the future, although the way it was phrased left things somewhat uncertain.
Will there be a super Easter egg in Black Ops 7? A super Easter egg is something that we care a lot about, we know the community cares a lot about, and we want to do it right. So it's something we're looking into for Black Ops 7. This being a continuation from 6 to 7, it makes a lot of sense, if we're going to do one, to have it at the end of this year.
Still, many players, myself included, hope that Treyarch eventually attempts something on the same level as Infinite Warfare's reward system again. The zombie community invests hundreds of hours mastering these maps, solving the quest and uncovering secrets, so having a truly meaningful reward waiting at the very end of the journey is something that players absolutely deserve. We already know that a reward tied to collecting all the relics is being considered in the current game, so it will be interesting to see whether a true Super Easter egg reward appears later in Black Ops 7 Zombies lifecycle, and if it does, hopefully it can match Director's Cut. And that's pretty much it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this throwback and breakdown of Easter egg rewards throughout Zombies history. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more Call of Duty Zombies content, including deep dive videos like this, as well as guides for every new map release. Thank you all so much for watching the video all the way to the end, if you are still here, and as always, hope I will see you in the next one.